My name is Michael Schwab. I'm with a company called SurgeAir. Today we're going to talk a little bit about AI, and I say a little bit because this is a pretty big topic, and that's not to be scary, but we're going to cover off on what the state of AI is today and how it can impact a packaging and supply chain program going forward. Everything I tell you today will be out of date by maybe like 5 minutes after I get off stage because this topic is evolving very rapidly. So I won't say take everything with a grain of salt, but if you're interested in this topic, there's a lot more than what we're going to cover today, and it will evolve and change over time. All right, so decision making and insights with AI. Quick little blurb about who we are. If you want to learn more about who SurgeAir is and what we do, I'd be happy to tell you. Short story is we are a software company that enables supply chain visibility from end to end throughout your process and whatever you consider an asset. So AI sure sounds great. And I've seen at most every conference, all you need to do is put the word AI or artificial intelligence into the title or the description of what the topic is, and you will fill every seat because AI is this fun topic that we've been talking about as a culture and as a society now, really since 2022, before that in different ways, but since 2022 when ChatGPT became this thing, now we all talk about AI. When we think about AI in a business application, though, we need to be honest about what it is today and what it can do, but with some understanding that what we're going to talk about today, and when you think about potentially taking these things back with you, what we say with ChatGPT, generative AI, and what the society broadly talks about as AI is not the same AI that we're using within a business application for the most part. And in a broader sense, AI and digitalization programs, because implementing AI, implementing some sort of intelligence within your business and thinking about analytics and making decisions with all those pieces of data you're collecting, for most companies will fail. 74% of IoT programs fail. 84% of digital transformation programs fail because we think, oh, well, we've bought this and now all of our problems are solved, right? We just magically have this bullet that helps us move beyond whatever our challenges are, analyze all this data, and give us these answers. That is the furthest thing from the truth, right? We can't say, well, tell me how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or tell me the score to last night's football game, or whatever thing I'm asking of a computer program in the same way that we have the business challenges to solve. So as we talk about today and as you go forward, know that there's a lot of potential here, but it's not the magic bullet. You can't say, I just bought this AI program and now everything is magical and it's different. When I started in marketing, it was, well, I need an iPhone app and that's gonna solve all my problems. And here's $500,000 to go do it because iPhone apps used to cost $500,000 when the iPhones first came out. Same way and same kind of analogy with AI. It's not just, oh, I bought this program, I've got AI in my company and now I've got this magic bullet and I'm gonna have all these answers. But AI is really hot right now, right? So pop culture reference, if you don't get it, come talk to me after, I'll tell you what it is. There's two things I'm gonna talk about in the next couple slides. Both are within the last couple weeks, and again, because AI is evolving very quickly. Gartner just put out the results of their survey. They did it earlier this year, and they just published it last week. These are the top priorities in digital supply chains when they talk to, I think it was 700 or 800 professionals. It's always interesting that survey numbers are really, really small and then they attribute it to an entire industry or an entire set of people, right? But when you go down that list, there's things that just a couple years ago were the top priorities. Mobile technology, wearable technology, blockchain. Remember that thing, right? We were all gonna use blockchain to verify, and some companies are and some industries are. But in the last 12 to 18 months, now it's AI. Is it because of the buzz, or is it because they really want to initiate some sort of machine learning and AI within their organization? But it's hot right now, and that's, again, why we can say AI in a title and usually fill up a conference room. DHL, one of our partners, also put out an infographic on AI to talk about the idea that, yes, it's hot, yes, some digitalization programs will fail, But really, when we think about AI, we can come back to the things that we care the most about at Surge Air, which is data. And knowing that for a business application, if we're thinking about AI or the core of AI, which is some machine learning components, we really have to start with what's our data. And when we think about that, all of our businesses, all of our functions, the things we do on a day-to-day basis generate so much data, we become overwhelmed. That's where AI steps in the business application. Again, we're not pulling up ChatGPT and asking questions that are generic that the world or the industry may or may not care about. We're thinking about things that are specific to our business. So we have to tackle the idea that we're overwhelmed by data, and if we are, how can we leverage an AI-based model or AI tools to help us do that? So DHL was thinking about that in the same way and then saying, well, if data is at the core of what we're going to use to solve our challenges and that we're going to start to apply AI on top of, we've got some things we need to think of from a governance perspective, from an operational perspective. It's a lot of words on the slide. I'm not going to read it to you, but I like to put in things that make it seem like we're doing this with more than just what I'm telling you. It's other groups, other people that are talking about this as well, of course. So let's think about AI and supply chains. And I say supply chains very broadly, right? Everybody's supply chain is different, and the role that you or your company play within a supply chain, oftentimes, as you might have heard earlier up on the stage this morning, starts with packaging, starts with the thing that you consider the asset. And so I'll use supply chain and packaging a little bit interchangeably as we go forward. So AI and supply chains, with all of those precursors that your digitalization program may still fail, AI is not the magic bullet. So what can you use it for? Well, we start with what we just talked about in the last slide. Governance cannot be emphasized enough. If you're going to create a lot of data, or you already create a lot of data with your packaging program and your supply chain program, your asset management program, then we start like any other project, right? AI is just a new tool in our proverbial toolbox. What are your goals? How do you safeguard against failure so you're not one of those 74 or 82%? Is your company ready for this, right? If you're running on old AS400 mainframes that I know some companies still are, you may not be ready for this, right? There's a lot of steps between where you were and where you're trying to get. So thinking about AI and supply chains or with packaging programs has most recently now been considered this subset of AI that is called agentic AI. And rather than try to reinvent the wheel with another fun graphic or something that our marketing team could come up with, I pulled this right from Salesforce. And most companies either use Salesforce or you're familiar with it. You may use another CRM. But they're thinking about this in the same way, because when we consider technology in a B2B context or a business context, how do we enhance what we already do? How do we not replace our really skilled labor that we've already hired and invested in, but emphasize the things that can be taken care of with a machine, with AI? So agentic AI is a big term within the business space that if you're not familiar with it in that application, you will become familiar with it. Agents think about things like volumes of data, and they can focus on a very specific task and do that very, very well, because we can train it on the data we want it to care about and what we want it to do with that data when it detects an anomaly. So in our four walls at the company, we think about things that are in process and out of process. An agent, if it's an agent of your company or it's an agentic agent, can look at a very specific thing and say, yep, this passes it, this does not, this is a fail. What's in process, what's out of process. When you then apply that to packaging and supply chains, well, now we can have agents for packaging. Now we can have agents for indoor location. Where was the last known location? Transportation, where is it over the road? Outdoor location, production processes. And so the other term that I'll introduce here, because we're going to break down these 5 buckets here a little bit more, to give you some examples, are digital coworkers. So if you don't want to call it an agent, maybe it's a coworker, right? And so it's this robot or this computer I have sitting side by side with me in my day-to-day tasks, and it's helping me do my job more efficiently or faster, or it's allowing me to offload the part of my job that I really don't like to do, so I can go do something else, whether that's my manager asking me to go do something else because I'm more skilled in another area and the computer can do it for me, or it can supplement and enhance the velocity with which I can get the task done. And now I can do more within my day that impacts whatever the business outcomes is we're looking to get. So let's get into those icons a bit more and really to the primary topic of, well, how does this actually work in packaging and supply chain? So packaging specifications, right? If you're a packaging engineer, if you care about master data, if you go and you work with any of the companies that are in the hall here in the pavilion, what are the specs, right? And that's a starting point. You need consistent, reliable packaging. Well, now if I know all those specs, I can tell you if something's in spec or out of spec. Do I have enough of package type A or package type B where it should be based off the data about that packaging specification? So that now as I move through the rest of my supply chain, I make sure I have everything in the right place at the right time. This in and of itself, as you're starting to see, isn't some crazy novel new thing. We've talked about packaging specification. Do I have enough of the right packaging rack, pallet, asset in the right place to enable the other functions in my supply chain for a long time? What this does get back to is this generates a volume of data now if we get into very big regional or global applications, that keeping track of all of it, having all the rules on what's in process and what's out of process, that's where it starts to get overwhelming. So applying AI to your packaging specifications is one way that we start to think about that, because now I can accelerate or maybe even let that run autonomously in the background and say, hey, I didn't produce enough of this week. So now my customer who needs to go manufacture enough volume with it the next week, they're gonna be short. What do we do about that? Production monitoring. Do you have enough raw materials? Do you have enough parts or availability to meet your production volume? And once I know that, do I need to move more labor around? So I'm bringing in people on second or third shift as opposed to first shift. Does it things that will impact how much I can do in a week and how much labor I need? Or again, can an automated process do that for me? Storage and yard's a big one, because this is where we see people wasting the most time, especially if they're manually going out. It could be in a go-kart driving around a yard trying to find things, door swingers that are opening trucks trying to find what they need to make that day's production run, or if we're going back a little bit terminology-wise, to make that milk run, right? I need these things to get my job done, get it to the right place at the right time. First in, first out, first in, last out. All of these data points can be individual coworkers, they can be individual agents. And now the real magic comes in that we've gone through a couple of these examples. Well, if I've got agents thinking about these individual tasks and I start to put them together, now I'm building teams of computer programs really, right? But they're agents that are working on behalf of our company. Now they can tell me when systems may fail. Now they can look at predictive analysis where I now know how many packages or assets or things I produced last week and what next week's production run needs to be. Well, I need multiple pieces of data to make that come together. Rather than running those reports or setting up all those parameters on my own, why can't I have an agent do it for me? Why can't I empower a computer program to work with another computer program and start to put these pieces together? None of this is ChatGPT, right? None of this is the big public. It's, I won't say boring, right? But it's basic computer programs. It's the machine components that you're saying, pay attention to this, tell me when this isn't working, tell this other computer program when this thing is in or out of process so that they can do their job. Now we can train all those things. AI really comes in when we start to put all those machine components together, look at those trends over time and try to be more predictive about it and stay ahead of where those potential downfalls are gonna come in. So those are just some examples of where they could fit. Obviously, everybody's company is a little bit different. The role you play, the things you care about will all be a little bit different. Want to talk about a little bit of kind of some traditional manufacturing supply chain applications. These terms may not be unfamiliar to you if you're not in manufacturing necessarily. In classic commercial industrial manufacturing, I'll clarify. But they're things that we see a lot happening. So where can AI play a role? Lane assignments, stop shipments, surplus of assets, so making sure you have the right things at the right place regionally or globally to meet production needs, and then takt time monitoring. Behind the scenes of all of these are agents, the digital coworkers, and they're working together in some combination, in some formula, to help save you time. And so when we get back to the beginning, digitalization programs fail. So if you've got a plan, then you move beyond it. Well, it's still not that magic bullet, because you're thinking, oh man, I'm gonna pull this up and my phone's gonna light up and do funky things and it's gonna give me an answer. Maybe, but when you get down to it, now what we've really done is accelerate data analysis, and we've accelerated the potential of capacity that you can put throughput through your organization. We can't forget the data, right? So this is a little bit of an eye chart, but if you've made this decision and any of this sounds like something that you could apply or that you'd be interested in applying, and there's a lot of companies that do everything that was kind of on the preceding handful of slides, know that there is an evolution to get to what a lot of us think of as predictive large language model, generative AI for a business or supply chain or packaging application. You will start with reactive. What are the rules? When this happens, tell me. When this doesn't happen, tell me. You have to train the computer, train the model on what those rules are before it can do anything more advanced for you. Proactive then becomes, okay, this happened last week. I think it's gonna happen again. Give me an alert, give me a notification, let me stay ahead of it. And with both reactive and proactive, it can be, I'm gonna get an alert, I'm gonna get a notification that it either did happen or may happen. And then what do you want to have as a result? Do you want the computer to do something for you if you trust the computer? And many companies don't trust the computer to make those decisions yet. Or do you want the human to be notified and the human to go take action? So these don't replace human labor. They don't replace what we do and how we work as an organization. They supplement it. Where it can get bigger and take advantage of more, that you get into supplier networks and manufacturers, you get into multiple companies working together, is when we can look at a model that takes advantage of a single industry. It could be automotive, it could be appliance, it could be food and beverage. Well, now if we know multiple pieces of data from multiple companies, now we can become predictive, because the problem that Honda has is probably had at Toyota, is probably had at Mazda and Ford and GM. So when we know enough of that data within the data that you own, now we can build a community, now we can be predictive. So there are steps to it that, again, it's not the magic bullet of, well, I bought this AI program, I have got all these answers now. ChatGPT works because it knows so much about what we all do every day. But the only way your internal AI solution works is when it knows enough about what you do, and then what all your suppliers do and what all your customers do, before it can truly become predictive and give you those answers on a bigger scale. So we'll wrap it up, and then we may have time for questions, or we'll go back to my headshot because that one looked better anyways. Is your data ready? That's the core to everything we just talked about. If you don't have good, clean data at any level, this will fail. It's why ChatGPT gives back fake answers or false answers, or what are called hallucinations in AI, because it takes every single blog and news site and thing that you put on Facebook and Instagram and everything else, and it considers that as a source of truth, and it gives you answers based off all the data it knows. We can't allow that ambiguity to come into our business world. We can't have these hallucinations and fake type of answers in it. We need good, reliable data so that the AI model that's being trained on that data will give us real answers to accelerate our operations. It requires planning like any other digitalization program. If you're going from that AS400 to a more modern mainframe, and you're gonna work with SAP or Oracle or something along those lines, that same level of effort comes into place and should be considered when you take on machine learning and AI. And it's not perfect, right? So as your organizations evolve, it's not a one and done. You're gonna have to say, this is how I operate today. These are the things I care about today. These are all my data sources today. But as I grow, as I work with new customers, I work in new regions of the world, as I work in different languages, all those things have to continuously be put into it so that the AI tools can give you out the answers that you're looking for or give you guidance to accelerate your operations. And that's it. So thank you all for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, but hopefully did not give you too much of a positive or pessimistic view because it's an exciting, really evolving tool, but it's a tool that we have to go into with a little bit of caution and not just assume that it can give us everything we need right out of the gate.